Hello all, welcome to rotterdam.com. In this session, we'll discuss about how do we customize a standard AP invoice. So we'll understand what is the configuration step we have to enable for the AP invoice to have a workflow enabled, and the navigation for the transaction console, the BPM tables, and the use case which we want to discuss. Okay. And the first thing is, if you want to enable a workflow for the AP invoices, you have to navigate to manage invoice options in the setup and maintenance for the financial year setup. And in the approval area, make sure that you enable these two checkboxes so that it will kick the workflow whenever you are initiating a workflow for the AP invoice. Now, so where there are a couple of screens where we have to, or a task where we have to understand how do we what do you call, configure the relevant customized information for the workflow. So there are two things. One is approval group, another one is task configuration. So the same thing in the setup and maintenance task list, search for manage approval groups, and it will navigate to this screen where you can customize. I mean, you can add up a new work groups, or you can modify the existing approval groups, and this is screen. And similarly, other one is a task configuration. Again, you have to navigate to setup and maintenance task list. You have to search for the manage task configuration for financials, and it will show this sort of things. If at all, if you don't mention financials, it will show all these things. In our case, we want to work on AP invoices, so we have to navigate to financials. Once you navigate to financials, you can search for fin AP, and fin AP invoice approval. These are tasks which we have to configure. Okay, so task configuration, approval groups, as well as the first one, enabling the approval enablement for the AP invoice. These are three things which we require before we starting the customization. Okay. Now, how do we customize the workflow or a BPM stuff? And of course, there is another monitoring page called transaction console that will be available in the tool section. Okay. So that we can discuss later. And yeah. So the use case, what we want to discuss is there are four rules we want to define based on the invoice amount. Generally, it can be based on some other extra criteria also, like BU, user, invoice type, many other things. In our case, an easier way to understand, there are three rules which we want to define. If the invoice amount is less than 1,000, we want to perform a auto approval. If it is between 1,000 and 5,000, we want to use a approval based on the approval group. And if it is 5,000 and 10,000, we want to use a supervisory approval. Okay. And you can see in the below screen, like here, I just perform the test. In the first invoice, it was auto approved. In the second invoice, as the amount was greater, matching the criteria, it is assigned to a particular user called Cassie Brown. And in the third one, it is assigned to a user called Anita Kennedy. Now let us see how do we start the customization. Okay, so now I'll just navigate to the Fusion instance. Okay, so I can go to setup and maintenance, task list, manage task configuration, or you can just manage task. You can mention, you can just mention task configuration for financials also, either way. Now here search for FinAP, and here, yeah, this is a place we want to add up the logic. So now let's see. So as we told, like we want to perform three use cases. And if you want to modify this particular workflow, what you have to do is, first of all, you have to click on this particular pencil icon. So this is now available for the modification. Okay. And just click on assigning. It will show the overall picture of this particular BPM task. And then we have to look out from where to start our logic. So in an easier way to understand, just check out the enabled component here. And this is the enabled component. And so on this one, on this particular one, you just click here and it shows some of the properties, like you have basic and advanced. In our case, we just need to understand what is the rule set behind this particular component. Okay. So now click on this particular business rule here. It shows it's a rule set, right? It shows a list of rules which are available at that level. So in our case, I just added three rules. Okay, there are already existing rules which are already available. So first of all, when you're adding a new rule, we have to understand whether your particular new rule is it already considered, or whether you have to modify their existing rules and then you have to create a new rule also. In our example, in our case, there is already auto approval rule, but I want to have my own auto approval rule. Then what I have done is I have considered invoice header business unit not in not in US1 business unit. And then I have written my own auto approval rule. Like you can observe here, or auto approval. So what I have done is, if the invoice amount is less than 1,000, and if at all the invoice type is standard, and if at all if the invoice business unit name is US1 business unit, simply just what I have considered is like I consider this particular list builder type where the position is this one, and like auto action enabled is true, approve. That's it. So now we have to understand, how do I write this rule, right? That's the main question. So once you once you navigate to this particular rule list, then you have to just click on this plus symbol, and here you just click on generate rule. Okay, so you have to click on generate rule, and then it shows this information, right? So now here, if you observe, it has not, by default it mentions rule 1, rule 2, or something like that. Then you just click on properties, and I'll say X6 auto, yeah, auto approval rule, and you can mention the description. As of now it is active, so let's go with active only. Now we want to add up 3 conditions, right? So in the if condition, just click here and click on simple test. Now what is the first condition? Let's say invoice header dot business unit name. Okay, ID is different, name. If business unit is so and so, let us say in our case it is US1 business unit, you can just you have to type it because it's a constant, right? You can just simply type it. If business unit so and so, and if at all, if the amount, right? Now the next thing is, in this, it will be available in the same header level, invoice header dot invoice amount. Just simply type it. Okay, invoice header dot invoice amount. If it is like in our case, let's say, what's the first use case? um, if it is less than 1,000, right? Let's say if it is less than 1,000, and you can add up few more conditions if you require, or you can simply go with the then option. So this is the if criteria. Then what do you want to do? So you want to go with here, like in the add approval list, I just want to go with approver group, and then no, it's not approval group, right? So sorry. So you just delete this one. Yeah. So to delete, what you have to do, just select this box, and you can see here this particular one delete action is enabled. Delete set. Now click on plus symbol, add approver, supervisory, and here what we want to do, auto action is enabled in our case. And what is the action you want to consider by default? We want to consider approve by default. And then here, number of level, just simply mention 1. And starting participant and ending participant, what you can do is you have to mention a simply hard-coded one. So I'll just go with this one, workflow system. That's it. So now our auto approval rule is done. And similarly, you can just add up the other one also. And the next one is, in our case, the next one is based on approval group, right? So for approval group, so next thing what you require is you need to create an approval group. So how do we create an approval group? So before proceeding further, I have to create an approval group, right? So I'll just click on approval group. So it is auto saved. So I can just see here. I click on approve group. Let me show you the existing one. Yeah, this is my existing approval group which I just created, which has only one user. And if you want to create a new approval group, right? Simply click on new static group. I'll say XX or a new pin AP group, and then click on here plus symbol on the right side, and it will ask you what is the username. I'll go with Cassie Brown. Okay, it's almost ready. That's it. Now go back here. I think our savings are not saved. I just missed that. Anyway, let's try. If it is available, it's good. Else we have to redo it. Click on assigning, and then click on this particular component. Go to business rules, right? So they're not available, right? That's gone. Okay. Anyway, it's fine. So now we'll just try again. And one more option I want to tell you. So let us say assume that generally by default you already have auto approval rule which is already available, right? Simply click on this one, and like what you can do is here you can just click on copy, and again you just click on the same symbol and click on paste. That's it. So yeah. So now here this new auto approval group, it got copied, but the twist is it will have the same name. So okay, carefully click on that one, and here click on properties. I'll say X6 auto approval rule, and now you can remove if at all if you want to remove some conditions. And just now we have seen how to add up the conditions, right? You can just if at all if you want to remove it, select this one, and you have an option like here delete, cut, paste also will come up. So now let us say if you want to copy also, you can copy, and you can paste here also. Okay, and that's how we can just do it. And here if you can see the right the participant and the approve. So this is how we can create a auto approval rule. And now let us say if you want to create an approval group, right? So let me show you that one. So I'll just say click on general rule. Simple. Yeah, before that, let me change the property X6 or approval group. So now we want to create a new condition based on the approval group, right? And for the approval group, what we want to consider the invoice amount is between 1000 and 5000. Invoice amount is between 1000 and 5000. So invoice header dot invoice amount. You can type it or you can simply copy if you already have this kind of logic within one of your rules. Okay. If invoice amount is more than same or more than or equal to 1000, and create one more condition, simple test, invoice header dot invoice amount less than 5000. Okay, and if you want to add up a business unit name, and do that one also, invoice header dot business unit name is US1 business unit. Like this you can do it. Now what is the condition? Now very simple, just click here in the then condition, and in the add approval go with approval group. And then here you have to select the approval group name. So in this drop down, you have to can see the new approval group which we created, and that's it. So now better, we just simply click on this save. Okay. Earlier we just lost our data rights. Click on save. So now as of now this is saved, but this latest code will not be invoked by workflow until unless you perform commit. Okay. The save is just only temporary purpose, and until unless you do a commit, this your particular changes will not be invoked by the latest invocation of your workflow. Now, the last one, what we want to do is we want to invoke a supervisory stuff, right? So for the supervisory, what we want to do, if at all, if it is like between 5000 and 10,000, and for the other one, the fourth one, which I'll be discussing in the next session, which will be based on a SQL based supervisory approval. But third one, 5000 and 10,000. So let me show the existing one also, supervisory approval. So between 5000 and 10,000, type is standard, invoice business unit name is US1 business unit. And the only difference here observe here is here we just need to mention the standard logic here. Let me show you this. You just need to mention supervisory hierarchy builder dot get manager supervisory, and it will get you the supervisor for the employee, like the one who is creating that, right? The one who is creating the invoice for that particular user, it will by default get the supervisor. That's it. And you can just mention the same here also, and mention the number of levels. You just want to reach only one level, right? In our case, we just want to go with one level. Just mention that one. And now, now we like for the supervisor, how do we create the rule? Same thing. Once you click here, right? You have to just select add approver. You have to select supervisor. That's it. Okay, so now I just created these two things, right? I don't want to I don't want to, invoke them. So what I'll do is I'll just click on properties, and I'll just make it as inactive. That's it. I just shown you like how do we create it. That's the only purpose. Okay, and copy paste, cut paste, everything will work. Only thing is just be careful when you perform a copy paste. That's it. Okay, now these are three rules which you want to consider, right? So now I'll just save it. Now we can just commit it. So until unless you do a commit, your latest code will not be invoked by the invoice workflow. So now I'll just go to payable invoice. Payable invoice. I'll click on create button. I'll just say X aura TST 001. And I want to try the first condition, right? So first condition is between 1000, right? So I'll just say 800 and ABC Consulting. Okay, validate. And you just make sure that you mention the appropriate total amount after tax. Now revalidate. Yep, that's it. The invoice is validated. And now next action is how do we invoke workflow? Click on invoice action, click on approval, and click on initiate. That's it. So now we can check the status of this one at here also. Click on invoice action, view approval and notification history. And you can see here it got initiated. But if you want to see the total overall history, right, of that workflow, what you can do is navigate to tools, transaction history. So I'll navigate here again. So click on tools, transaction console. Okay, transaction console. And you can search with your transaction number. So again, I'll just remove this search criteria which are failed. So this TST01, right? This is the one which I invoked just now. Maybe it will just take a couple of seconds and either it should fail or success. Let's try. As it is auto approval, it has to finish within a couple of seconds or minutes, I can say. Okay, done. So it got approved. And similarly, now we can try the other one, which will involve the approval group, right? XX or TST002. Now this time I want to invoke the second level of logic. So I'll say 1200 is my invoice amount and ABC Consulting 1200. Check out the invoice, this one, tax amount 1308. Do a revalidation. It's okay. I already created a lot number of samples with the same set of data. That's why it raised that error. That's fine. Now click on approval and initiate. So it should kick the second level of, second type of condition, second business rule which we define, and it has to invoke the approval group in which we have the same Cassie Brown user. So you can just try here, transaction console. Yeah, the first is completed, and let us see here. We have to see the assignee here for this particular test 002. And similarly, time being, we can just raise the new invoice, which has to invoke the third condition, supervisory one. So, and what's the amount for that? So around 6,000, I'll mention 6,500. ABC Consulting. 6,500. Validate the invoice. It is 7085 the total cost. I can do a revalidation and then click on approval, initiate. That's it. And now we can go back to our transaction, this one, transaction monitor or transaction manager. Yeah, so we can see here the second invoice got assigned to user Cassie Brown based on the approval group, and third one will be assigned to a manager of Cassie Brown who is Anita Kennedy, that is getting based on the standard hierarchical package logic. Okay, so like this how we can just try. And now let us say I will log into Anita Kennedy for the, we can check the second itself. Like let us say if you want to find out whether you really receive this invoice or not, right? What we can do, we can just go to the work list. You can navigate either way. There are a couple of ways you can do it. Just simply navigate to the Fusion window and you can see the notification on the home screen itself. Here, you can just click on this bell icon and you should see the second invoice, right? Approve, that's it. And now I'll log in with the user Anita Kennedy and let me log into different browser in incognito mode. I'll just refresh. I already logged in with the user called Anita Kennedy. You can see here. And now I'll just click on this bell icon. We should see the latest invoice, Aura test 003. That's it. So you can just either you can check out more details and you can see the information, or you can simply click on approve. And now once it is approved, and you can go back to the work list of the Casabron user and check out what is the status of this two invoices. Perfect. Both got approved, and you can see the third invoice, and you can see here submitted by this one, approved by so and so, and the second invoice also you can see here submitted and approved by same user. Okay. And now if you want to check out some of the information from the back end, like if you want to know what is the status and who create, like when it was created and all those information and what status, you can check out this particular table. The first one is AP invoice approval history table. You can join with your AP invoice table, and you can find out what is the response, who approved it, and like what is the step it is, which rule it is invoked also. You can see here from this rule we can understand, okay, for this particular invoice this rule was applied. This way also you can get some information, some insights. Okay. So these are some of the, like, this is one of the approval history table. And if you require some more details for your particular approval history reports, what we can do is you can join with the WF task table. That is another important table. I can show you the query here. The only thing is you just need to join WF task, this WF, like a FA Fusion SOVA Infra WF task table, and which you have an identification key that you have to join with the AP invoice ID. Okay, that's how we can find some information. So in our case, I'll just here. So you can just get the latest status of your particular information of your invoice, like what is the status, what is the real current approval status, it is rejected or approved, or like what are the comments, attachments, that all information you can get it. Okay. Let me click on data. Yeah. So you can see here assignee date, creation date, updated, what is the title, and some other internal primary keys which are available. And of course, if you require some more detailed information, you can join with other BPM tables which are already available. Okay. So it's all about how do we customize the workflow, and we just considered only three use cases. But in the next session, we'll work on the SQL-based supervisory approach. Okay, thank you.